Exposed. Written by Suzana Thompson. Narrated by Lauren Sweet. Chapter 21. The tears didn't come this time. They remained trapped behind my brittle facade as I sat alone in the library. I had texted Alice that I couldn't make it to the cafeteria today and that I would explain later. I was numb at this point, but I felt like it wouldn't take much to make me crumble. I needed to avoid seeing Mason so that I could make it through the rest of the day. My mind slingshot in the opposite direction by the time I got to the last class of the day, which Mason was in with me. Whether from desperation or insanity, an idea of how to get him back had formed in my mind, and I was in no condition to think clearly. He ignored me during class, just like I knew he would. Undeterred now that I had latched on to my crazy plan, I followed him out to his car afterwards. His glacial gaze finally focused on me. "Take the bus," he snapped in a harsh tone that belied his icy exterior. He was furious beneath the unnatural calm. The glimpse of emotion only encouraged me, because he was not as indifferent as he pretended to be. I still affected him, and I was going to use that to get him back. It still took Herculean effort to say the words. I lost the bet. Mason went as still as a statue. He had looked away from me dismissively, but now he slowly brought his eyes back to me. The look in them almost made me run away. His fury was no longer hidden, but focused all at me with frightening intensity. If looks could kill. With my heart in my throat, I fought the panic threatening to overwhelm me and stood my ground. His jaw clenched as he seemed to also be fighting some internal battle. After a heart-pounding moment, he appeared to have subdued the fury, and the icy mask was back in place. He gave me a cool appraisal. "You ready to pay up?" I swallowed thickly. "Yes." He clicked the button to unlock the doors and gave me a curt nod. I got into his car and sat stiffly in the passenger seat. He drove to his house in silence without sparing me another glance. My nervousness built steadily until my knees were so weak with it that I could barely walk into his house. He didn't make anything easier on me when he sat down on the couch as I stood before him and gave me a terse order. "Strip." It was completely humiliating and demeaning, but I obeyed with trembling hands as I removed my t-shirt and shorts. Hesitating, I took a shaky breath before taking off my bra. My face flamed as I stared at the floor. "Keep going," Mason commanded in a harsh tone, but I heard something more than anger in it. Not daring to look at him, I pulled my underwear down and heard him take a sharp breath. Stepping out of them with a little more confidence, I took a peek at Mason's lap and saw the bulge between his legs. Heat flared within me and flushed my skin. "Come here," Mason snapped, and my gaze shot up to his. I saw a volatile combination of desire and anger that drew me and intimidated me at the same time, but I went toward it like a moth to the flame. The heat inflamed me as I stood close enough for him to touch me, while his eyes roamed over my naked body. "Spread your legs," he ordered in a rough voice. Burning with both embarrassment and lust, I stepped so that I stood with my feet wide apart. It made me aware of the mortifying wetness between my legs, and I gasped when he swiped a finger over it. "Did you get this wet for him?" he demanded. "No," I said. "But you let him fuck you." My mouth opened in shock. "No," I denied. Mason scowled. "Don't lie to me. I saw the truth on your face when I confronted you about it." "I didn't, I swear. He only touched me up here." I pressed my hands to my breasts to show him before dropping them to reach out to him. He flinched away from me. "Get dressed and get the fuck out of my house." "Mason," I pleaded. "I didn't have sex with him, I swear. I'm still a virgin." His gaze chilled me like a gust of cold air. "Are you willing to prove that?" My throat went dry. As much as I wanted Mason to be with me, I wasn't ready for that. He sneered at the expression on my face. "That's what I thought." Pulling his phone out of his pocket, he dropped his gaze to it and started swiping at the screen. "I'm ordering an Uber to take you home. Don't ever come back here." Anger rose within me. "I guess you're just like Josh. You give girls ultimatums to have sex with you, and if they don't, you get mean. No wonder you're friends." Before I could react, he had dropped his phone and grabbed my arms to get in my face. "I have never given you an ultimatum to have sex with me. Never. And I wouldn't touch you right now if you begged me. So get the fuck out of here." He let go of me so roughly that I stumbled back. Shooting up out of his seat, he stalked out of the room, even as his phone clattered to the floor. The noise drew my gaze, and I saw it lying next to my discarded panties. I had momentarily forgotten that I was naked, and shame overcame me as I realized how pathetic my ploy to get him back had been. I had humiliated myself by taking off my clothes and trying to entice him with my body, and he had rejected me. It hit me that this was something my mother would do, and that shamed me even more. I sure am her daughter, I thought bitterly as I got dressed. The only difference was that I hadn't had sex with him, as she surely would have done, but that was little consolation to me right now. When my Uber arrived, I asked the driver to drop me off at a different address from the one Mason had requested. Since it was only a few streets over and wouldn't change the fare, the driver agreed. Alice was home by now, and she answered the door just in time to be my shoulder to cry on. Because the tears came easily when I saw her sympathetic face. I told her everything in between crying jags, and I felt emotionally drained by the time I was done. Both of us sat glumly in silence, me on the couch, and Alice on the coffee table in front of me. I smiled sadly as I noted her little quirk, but something inside me loosened a bit. The feeling grew stronger, even as I sighed. I might have lost Mason, but I still had Alice. I straightened up in determination. "He's not going to take you away from me again." Her eyes widened in realization, but she bravely agreed as she sat up straighter too. "No, he won't." He didn't even bother, though. Instead of taking revenge on me, this time Mason acted like I didn't even exist. He walked by me in the halls at school like I wasn't there, but he did trade seats with other people so he wouldn't have to sit next to me in the classes we shared. None of his friends made comments about me or harassed my friends. Alice and I were left in peace to enjoy our friendship. Mason had left me alone, just like I had always asked him to in the past. While I was glad that he wasn't bullying my friends or me, I was miserable that he was completely ignoring me. I wished that I could block him out just as easily, but I was always intensely aware of him, even as I avoided looking at him. I hated that he could still affect me so much, and it infuriated me that he had completely cut me off while allowing Josh to remain part of his crowd. "He's a sexist asshole," I vented to Alice. "He blamed my mom for his dad cheating on his mom, and now he's only blaming me and not Josh. I guess it's always the woman's fault." Yet I felt like an asshole myself when Erin asked me why I broke up with Mason. "He broke up with me," I admitted. "He didn't tell you?" "No," she answered. "He refuses to talk about it. Or you. He won't let anyone mention your name. I thought you broke up with him, but what happened?" I glanced around at the students passing us in the hallway. Nobody was paying attention to us, but I felt uncomfortable to have this discussion at school. I can't talk about it here. Can we talk after school? I have cheer practice, she replied, but I'll call you later. Okay, I agreed, feeling relieved that I could tell her over the phone instead of in person. I had no idea how she'd react to finding out that I had made out with her ex-boyfriend, and it would be easier if I didn't have to face her. She seemed more confused than upset, though, when I talked to her later that evening. You had a crush on Josh, but you were going out with Mason? I swear I didn't know you dated him, I repeated. I would never have gone near Josh if I knew that. I would have picked someone else. I winced after saying that. To have a crush on? She asked in bewilderment. I never had a crush on him, I admitted. I mean, not really. He just seemed like a nice guy to go out with, and I was trying to get over Mason. But weren't you already going out with Mason? She questioned. I didn't think it was real. I expelled a breath. I know it's hard to understand, but he hated me for so long that I didn't really believe he liked me. It seemed too good to be true. And then his mom made me feel like just another girl he was hooking up with. You were jealous, Erin said, and you wanted to make him jealous. No, I denied. Well, I was jealous. I hated thinking about him being with those other girls, but I wasn't trying to make him jealous. I was trying to like someone more than I liked him, and Josh seemed like a good choice for a boyfriend, but he turned out to be worse than Mason. At least Mason never tried to blackmail me into having sex with him. So, you didn't? She asked. No, we just kissed and made out. Telling her that brought back my shame. I didn't know about you and him until you told me at the concert. That's why I felt so bad. Oh, she responded, like she was having an epiphany. I wondered what happened all of a sudden. You were having such a great time, and then... Yeah, I confirmed glumly. I'm so sorry, Erin. I feel so awful about going out with him after the way he treated you. I never would have done it if I had known. It's okay, she said. I just feel bad that you lost a great guy like Mason over him. I exhaled heavily. It wasn't meant to be. Anyway, I'm sorry. Thanks for being so nice to me. I loved going to the concert with you, and I wish we could have been friends longer. We're not friends anymore? She asked in a hurt voice. I thought that you wouldn't want to be, I replied hesitantly. Because of Josh? She scoffed. I'm not going to let him ruin anything for me. He's not worth it. I was delighted and grateful that she still wanted to be friends with me, but I was stunned when Tyler did. Do you know Krav Maga? He asked me one day in the hallway at school. Isn't that some kind of martial arts? I responded, as I wondered what he was up to, and if Mason had sent him to bully me. It's a combination of fighting techniques. My brother teaches classes in it. You should sign up. This seemed so random that I didn't know what to say. Come on, Ella, he urged. I know that you can be as badass as you want to be. You can go with me and I'll help you. Here, he said, pulling out his phone. Give me your number. I wasn't sure if this was some kind of prank, but Mason had my number anyway, so I couldn't see any harm in giving it to Tyler. He later texted me his number and the information about the Krav Maga classes. I looked up the facility, and it was a real place. I tentatively asked my dad about taking classes, and he thought it was a great idea. It's smart to learn self-defense. Hopefully you'll never need it, but it's good to be prepared. I'd never thought about doing anything like that before, but it turned out that I loved feeling badass. To my surprise, Tyler was genuine when he claimed he wanted to be my friend. He was actually a lot of fun, and I marveled that such a player could be a great guy friend. Why do you think women love me? He asked when I voiced that aloud. I charm the pants off of them, he quipped. I laughed and swatted his arm. You'd actually make a great boyfriend if you could stay with one girl. Don't get any ideas, he warned playfully. I'll try to control myself. I joked.
I know it's hard, he bantered back. And by hard, I mean hard,
he emphasized suggestively. Gross, I complained and swatted his arm harder.
Ow,
he cried out, pretending to be hurt. I rolled my eyes at him before asking casually, "So, what does everyone think of us being friends?"
And by everyone, you mean Mason, he retorted.
I opened my mouth to protest, but he continued.
He's jealous as hell.
He is? I questioned before I could stop myself. Tyler grinned at me.
Oh yeah, it's killing him that I get to hang with you, but he doesn't. He kept telling me to shut the fuck up whenever I mentioned you, but now he just glares at me.
Oh, I responded in disappointment. That just sounds like he hates me.
No, he hates Josh. He never says a word to him anymore, but he watches him like a cobra watching its prey.
He slid a glance toward me.
So Josh fooled you with his nice guy routine.
It was spoken more like a statement than a question, and my embarrassed face was confirmation enough anyway.
I should have warned you about that guy,
Tyler said, like he was at fault for my mistake. I dared a glance at him. You don't blame me? I'm the one who cheated, I admitted.
I don't judge people, he replied. Monogamy is hard. And by hard, I mean...
He broke off laughing as I shoulder bumped him, laughing myself. He always lightened my mood, but I was tense at home as I waited for the other shoe to drop. I felt guilty around my dad, like I was deceiving him too by not telling him about my mom cheating on him. Yet I couldn't bring myself to hurt him with the truth, and I also didn't want to destroy our family. As the weeks passed, I learned to live with my mom's secret. So, I was completely blindsided when she told him herself. I came home from school one day to find her waiting to talk to me right when I walked through the door. "I'm leaving Charles," she told me without preamble. "I'm going to tell him tonight." "What?" I exclaimed. "You're leaving Dad for Jeremy?" She scoffed. "He was just for fun. I have a man who wants to marry me." "There's another man?" I yelled. "You've been cheating with 2 guys? How could you do this to Dad? He loves you." "You have 2 boyfriends yourself," she retorted. "So don't give me that attitude." That brought me up short. "I don't have any boyfriends, Mom. I made a mistake, and I lost Mason because of it. Don't you lose Dad. He's the best thing that ever happened to you." She ignored my plea. "It's too bad you lost Mason. It seemed like he had money. Craig has lots of money, though, so you'll be meeting some rich boys once we move in with him. Wait until you see the neighborhood he lives in." "I'm not going with you," I declared. "He knows about you, and he's fine with you moving in with us," she assured me. "He lives in a mansion, so there's plenty of room," she added with a girlish giggle. I looked at her with all the disappointment I felt. I had already cried before over her cheating, and I had yelled. Now, I just spoke wearily. "I'm staying here with Dad. I love him, even if you don't." She couldn't seem to comprehend how I felt. "You don't want to live in a mansion?" I sighed, completely disheartened. "No, Mom, I don't." She shrugged. "Suit yourself. You might change your mind once you see it. Anyway, I'll be leaving later tonight after I tell him." After she told him, like it was no big deal, like I wouldn't rip his heart out. I did have more tears left in me after all, and I went to my room and cried for Dad, and for everything else that was lost.